Hi everyone! So this will be the first video in a series of 3 showcasing you how to use the SketchUp plugin in conjunction with the OpenStudio application. For these tutorials I will be using OpenStudio 3.1 as well as the 1.1 version of the plugin, and then I will also be using SketchUp Pro 2019. I prefer this one just because it is up to date and also compatible with the current software. So this will be the typical screen you'll be greeted with when you launch SketchUp. As you can see up top, here are the SketchUp toolbars. And if you go to extensions, you can see some of the ones offered by the OpenStudio plugin. And in the bottom are just the SketchUp some more SketchUp tools. In the middle are the tools offered by the OpenStudio plugin, which you'll be using a lot. And you can also move them depending on just preference. And before we continue with anything else, I'll teach you just how to move around. If you hold the middle wheel button of your mouse and just drag it around, you can rotate. And then in conjunction with that, if you hold shift while holding that middle wheel, you'll be able to pan left or right or up or down. So these are just some nifty tools to also aid in your efficiency while creating geometry. And for drawing basic shapes, you can use the Draw toolbar at the top of the SketchUp window, or you can just use the shortcuts, which I very much prefer since they're a lot faster and more efficient. So R will make you a rectangle, L will give you just a straight line, C will give you a circle, and then if you want to make a line parallel to an axis, what you can do is first create a line. And as you can see here, this is parallel to just an arbitrary axis, but if you drag it a little bit to the right, now it's parallel to the red, now it's parallel to the green, and then if I hover over at the top, it's parallel to the blue axis. And last but not least are the push, pull, and tape measure functions. You can access the push and pull in the SketchUp toolbar, or you can just press P, which is a lot faster as a shortcut. And then the other function you will use a lot in building modeling is the tape measure tool, just to measure certain dimensions of your shapes. And so that one can be accessed in the SketchUp toolbar, and you can use that to find any sort of height, width, or length you need. So far none of the geometries I've made have yet to be recognized by OpenStudio. So in order to make one that is, I'll have to make it in a space. So if I double click this new space, I can add any geometry in this area and it will make it recognized by OpenStudio. So I'll go ahead and make a simple block. And as you can see here, it is automatically rendered as a yellow and red color, which means it is recognized by OpenStudio. And so right next to that, I'll make another example where I'll make a SketchUp floor. As you can see here, it is white and gray. And then if I make an OpenStudio floor, it'll look very similar. One thing to note too for OpenStudio geometries, the darker side will be the external face. So as you can see in the floor, that's the darker side, and then the lighter side will be the internal side. And now I'll talk about some other types of geometries, and before I do that, I cannot emphasize this enough. Please make sure you are working inside your space when you want to and when you need to. So for example, when you're making a window, I'm making it outside of the space right now. You can see it is not recognized by OpenStudio, it is white. So if I double click into the space and make the same window, you can see it is an actual window and it is rendered as one. So please make sure you do that and you are working inside of a space before you make any serious changes. So yeah, looking inside of the room, we have the walls, the floor, the roof, typical things when you'll have when you extrude a rectangular block. And so here I'll make a door similar to a window inside the space, just make it adjacent to the floor, and then you'll have your door. And also I'll show you some of the view modes you can have. For example, hide rest of the model is when you're in a selected space and you click it, everything else disappears. So pretty self-explanatory there. For view hidden geometry, sometimes when working you want to hide certain walls just to make it easier to see some others. So here I hid that wall and you can see it as a grid as a hidden geometry. And last but not least, this third one to the right makes everything transparent so you can see through walls and see through other fixtures. So now what I'll be doing is I want to show you all the different rendering modes available in the SketchUp plugin. So right now I will create this new space, just like another typical room. And so right now the default render is render by surface type. To the right we have render by boundary condition. After that, rendered by construction, rendered by space type, rendered by thermal zone, and then rendered by building story. And as you see, all these different types of render modes have different colors, and these colors are the ones defined in the actual OpenStudio application. So opening the inspector tool, you can see that you can define pieces of information like space types, construction set names, thermal zone names, and we're going to talk about this in the following video. But for now, it is important to know that it is affected by the rendering type that you are using. Another nifty tool is the surface search, where you can find any sort of surface, subsurface, by just typing the name, typing the associated number with it. Really helpful for debugging, so we'll be talking about this in video 3. And right now, a tool that we like with this application is the Unhide All tool, where you can unhide all geometries with one simple click. And similar to the inspector tool, we have the info tool, where you can find the information for certain surfaces, whichever surface you have highlighted. And similar to the inspector tool, it is affected by the type of rendering you are using. So you want to be smart about which kind of information you want to get. And lastly, you don't open and save an OpenStudio model through the SketchUp tool. You save it through the extension's own toolbar. And then lastly, you can open the application directly from the toolbar by pressing the application button. And so this launches you directly to the same model that you're working on, but interfaced in the OpenStudio application. And that's all we have for now, guys, so thanks for sticking around. In the next video, we will talk more about setting in low definition, setting thermal zones and space types, and using more of the interaction between the application and then SketchUp.